Well, good evening again. In order to discuss intelligently what we're going to go into, which is the question of having problems, of having troubles, I would like to see the hands of all of you who do indeed have problems and troubles. Because there's no point solving them if you already have, right? Is there anyone here who has solved all the problems? Well, I should ask. I was at a meeting last night which a number of people had no problems whatever. They'd solved everything in their lives. They were free and happy human beings. And I almost invited them to take my chair and teach the class. If you're thinking on the level of having problems, you won't understand what I'm going to tell you. You won't believe it. You won't accept it, because presently, if you have problems, I'm not talking about things you have to do. If you have to go out and earn a living, that's not a problem. That's a fact of life. If you have problems, if you have difficulties, if you're always being upset, made nervous, made emotional, always caught between several choices, and you have to struggle to decide which one to take, if that is your present state, then I must tell you at the start that what I'm going to tell you will not make sense to you. But it's necessary to tell you this so that you can begin to comprehend it and get to the point where you have no problems at all. No difficulties, nothing to worry about. See, does that sound like too much for you? Let me tell you why. We have to start way, way back with this discussion of having difficulties in life. You have difficulties in life because you are what you are. And you are what you are because of your shaping by circumstances, by your parents, by education, by your own inability to see above the sickness of society when you're young. We all fall a prey to society. So you have a certain habit system very well fixed and very hardened in you, which creates problems, because this is the only thing this lower level of thinking and living is capable of doing. It thrives on problems. The intellect, when wrongly used, can't live. It can't have any existence at all unless it has conflicts, unless it has fights, unless it has someone to argue with, someone to feel superior to, someone to feel inferior to. The purpose of the lower level of the mind, the intellect, is to keep you in your state of having difficulties in order that it might survive, and it's purely a mechanical force. If tonight, and you can do it if you want it badly enough, you can begin to understand that it's possible to transcend, to rise above the problem-creating self that you now are, I will guarantee you 100% that you'll have many, many, many things to do in life. You'll go to work, you'll be married or you'll be unmarried, but you won't have any difficulties. And I'd better explain right now, and explain quite thoroughly, a very important point. Your favorite pastime just now, all of you, without exception in this room, is to have difficulties. This is very valuable to you. You must have something that seems to give you a sense of self. And I want you to remember what I'm going to say next, and never forget it, if you want out, that is. There is a part of every human being that simply likes to thrill. There is a part within us that likes to vibrate. And in its inventiveness, this part can find hundreds of different ways to get a vibration, and we'll understand this vibration in a minute. But getting sad, getting sorrowful, getting hateful, getting excited about something. Oh, it's going to happen tomorrow. How marvelous. Getting depressed, looking forward to the future, being ashamed of yourself, fighting with people, arguing. The whole tragedy of mankind is one gigantic vibration. And don't you take my word for it. The next time you are in a negative mood, I want you to turn the arrow of attention back on yourself, and you'll see that you're vibrating. Don't you vibrate when you're depressed, when you're moaning about something, when you're anxious about something? You watch yourself the next time you worry, turn the attention inward, and you'll, of course, see a vibration there. There's a certain shaking. The false purpose, the false reward of this shaking is to keep you in your present state of spiritual sleep, psychic slumber, to keep you on the level of the intellect, which is where all your problems exist. They don't exist anywhere else but in a misused intellect. Therefore, if you have a worry of some kind, the vibration of it occupies your whole system. And out of that, this gets so complicated that finally it ceases to be explained, but I'll follow it as far as we can go. When you vibrate with worry, that in turn gives the lazy parts of us an excuse for not doing the right thing, which is to understand the worry, that it has no authentic source at all. Not really. And we'll get into that too. But the vibration provides a ready-made, instantaneous distraction so that I can remain in my self-centered worry and pretend that it is a right, necessary, real state. Now, doesn't it seem very odd to you that we as human beings want to keep a state of worry? I've already explained a little bit of it to you. It's because, and this is the very heart of the matter, when I am worried about something, I have an idea about myself. And this mere idea about myself is what is falsely valuable to me, because I think that I exist as a person who has a right to worry, who should worry, or who must worry, or who's the victim of worry. But in any case, there is a me here, there is a self here who has to worry. You know that billions of human beings refuse to give up their worry? If you had a pink pill and said, look, this is an anti-worry pill, if you take it, all your worries will vanish, they wouldn't take it. And you begin to understand why. This is the very heart of what we're talking about tonight. Because you and your worry, your identity and your worry are exactly the same thing. They are one thing. Therefore, if you were to take the pink pill, which would dissolve all your worries, it would also dissolve your concept of yourself, your self-description, your label, and you'll never, never probably, unless you want it badly enough, never ever let anyone, including God Almighty Himself, take away your worry, because if that goes, you also go. You and your worry are one. And so you become afraid of the extinction of your worry because it's the same thing as you and you don't want to die. If you study these principles for a long, long time, you will get to the point where you see the hoax that you have played on yourself all your life, which has punished you dreadfully, me too, and everyone else. The hoax is this: falsely believing in this self that likes to worry, that likes to have troubles, that likes to fight in order to get a feeling of identity. This hoax is not seen through because we take the hoax self, the artificial self, the invented self, the labeled self as being real. If you can see that it is nothing, what you call yourself, Bill, Mary, whatever, what you call yourself is merely a collection of hardened ideas and emotions and experiences. If you can see that it is not your eternal self at all, but only a temporary and very miserable and tyrannical self, then you become not just willing, but most eager to die to the old nature, which is what the New Testament talks so much about. You're willing to give up your collection of ideas about yourself and to be nothing in your own eyes. That is, you're not going to wrongly use your mind anymore to call yourself as this happy person, this sad person, this marvelous person, or this bad person, or whatever. Notice how your labels shift all day long about yourself. You do something kindly for someone and you get a sense of being a nice person. Then you make some rude remark to someone under your breath or outwardly, and then you feel ashamed and you think you're a bad person. Notice how all your labels, your sense of self shifts, not just once or twice a day, but dozens of times a day. I've explained to you that the reason you have troubles, difficulties, is because you have a false need for them. They are your, quote mark, salvation. And therefore you're going to find ways to deliberately stir things up. If you're sitting around the house, I'm not exaggerating, this is the fact, this is the way it goes. You see for yourself. Don't take my word for it. You explore for yourself. You're sitting around the house and you haven't had a fight with yourself or anyone else for a couple hours, and so you turn on TV, and because you're in a mood where you want to get this vibration, this shaking, this inner earthquake I'm talking about, don't worry. You'll find something on that TV show to criticize. Oh, that awful actor, why do they put him on the screen? Oh, that commentator doesn't know what he's talking about when he's talking about finances and government affairs. You'll find something to criticize in order to give yourself a shaking, because if you don't give yourself all these problems and difficulties of one degree or another, if you don't give them to yourself, listen to this, you begin to get anxious. You begin to get nervous because the intellect might be slowing down to a certain point where you have the horror of seeing the falsehood that you've lived in up to this point. And we don't want to see that, because that means the need to give ourselves up as egotists, which we are, as vain people, which we are. And so in order to promote a distraction, to give us something exciting to think about, something to get mad about, or to say, oh, I just love everybody. I'm in love with everybody. Same thing, and the same lie. If we can keep this distraction going, then we won't have to come face to face, heaven help us all. We won't have to come face to face with the one thing that will rescue us from our own delusions, which is the rescue being a whole, complete, deep comprehension of everything that I've talked about so far tonight, plus much, much more. For example, if you want to start out with a simple knowledge that you have to begin to understand yourself exactly as you are. Now, I didn't say as you imagine you are, because imagination can be very clever too. It can give us very flattering images, and we'd rather believe in those than believe in something that's detrimental to what we call ourselves. But start off with self-knowledge, and you've got to start tonight. You can begin to see for yourself experimentally that when you begin to slow down a little bit during the day, you'll immediately give yourself some kind of an excitement, some kind of a thrill, which will rush in and fill the empty space before you get too terrified. Do you want to know the way out? If you really want the way out of yourself, let me tell you what you have to do. And it'll work every time for you. This is good news. This isn't bad news. This is good news. You have to let the horror, the fear, the terror of your life increase. This means that you must no longer hide from yourself. This means you must no longer invent things to get excited about. You're going on that trip. We're going on that 20-day cruise. It's marvelous, all expense cruise paid. We're going to have a marvelous time. You see, the terror of our lives, which you all have, whether you're aware of it or not, I know you have. The terror is there, but we're not using it intelligently. That is, we're not examining the actual source of it. We're not examining these things that we've talked about up to this point. Now let me take a long leap and tell you how to begin this process of seeing through yourself, we all need to do, in order to put an end not to the problems, but to the person who is causing them, who is the very problem itself. You don't have a problem with that wife you fight with. You don't have a problem with that husband you quarrel with. You don't have a problem with the fact that you're not financially successful and you're already 45 years old. You don't have a problem with the fact that you don't have a lot of friends. You don't have a problem with anything out there at all. The only problem is the way you are looking at yourself, which is incorrect. And when you look at yourself incorrectly, you will also look at life incorrectly and put incredible demands on it. You owe me this because I'm what? I'm underprivileged, or I didn't have the chance that you had, or I didn't get the breaks that you had. Can you begin tonight to start with this one plain, powerful fact? It's going to take courage, because you're not going to want to do this. I'm telling you. How many of you like to blame other people? Come on, all of you raise your hand. Isn't it strange? It's always the other person's fault, right? He wasn't nice to you. She wasn't considerate to you. It's always someone else's fault. And did you ever notice, by the way, when we're blaming someone else, the hostility in our own attitude should be some kind of a clue to us as to what's wrong with us. Maybe there is something wrong with the other person. That has nothing to do with you and I beginning to recover our mental health. I'm the cause of any problems I've ever had. Start with that. Start with that, and you'll begin to see the only sensible thing. The only thing, look, we say we're intelligent people, all right? If we're intelligent, we will start with the fact that if I am worrying about something, I'm worrying about something out there in connection with another person, connection with my career, connection with something I want to get, something I want to do. If I am worried about that, if I am troubled, now you tell me, look, it's very simple. Where's the trouble? Where's the worry? The worry certainly isn't out there in the boss who's about to fire me. The worry isn't out there in the friend who's going to leave me. He or she is tired of me. It's not out there at all. The concern, the problem is in the way my mind is operating. I think I need that person. My ego's involved when the boss is going to fire me. After all, I would work there faithfully at low wages, thinking that I was going to get promoted. Instead of getting promoted, I get fired. I'll tell you, ladies, gentlemen, if you want, if you choose, you can continue to be a slave to 50 exterior happenings every day, if that's what you want. You can continue to go under. You can continue to be afraid of a hostile person. You can continue to be afraid of all of life, of what's going to happen to you. That's your choice, if that's what you want. Or you can show authentic intelligence by beginning to understand what is going on inside your own psychic system. If you can see that that is the only place where the problem, this isn't something I just read in a book I'm passing on to you. If you can begin to see that that's the only place the problem is, you can begin to understand how to put an end to the traditional you, the habitual you, the usual you, who causes all his problems, all her problems, because you think it is necessary to do so in order to get the vibration which you take as you. In our class in Boulder City, Nevada, we have a particular class phrase that we use from time to time, which is very important to understand, and you'll understand it somewhat because of the talk so far. And if you like to write things down, you might write the following down. Just write down the phrase, a false feeling of life. A false feeling of life. That is the same thing as this vibration, this inner earthquake that I talked about. This need to get angry, to get indignant, to get nervous, because it fills up space which we think must be occupied. Why don't you leave the space empty sometime? Just sit there quietly, and instead of reacting and filling up the space with yourself, with your past, with your compulsions, with your habits, with your desires, why don't you just quietly sit back the next time life throws you a challenge of some kind? Just sit back and refuse to answer it. You know what will happen? You'll destroy the problem, because it is the answering of the problem that perpetuates it. I was walking through one of these malls this afternoon, a bunch of little shops. As I was walking down the hall, the music was coming over the loudspeaker, and it was playing an old favorite song. I think it must have been written in the 20s or 30s, written by Irving Berlin, called What'll I Do? You know the song, What'll I Do? Yeah? Kind of a pretty song, isn't it? And it went on for quite a while. I must have walked halfway around the mall before it ended. And all the time it was playing, I was connecting it with the human situation. And here the voice was asking, what'll I do? It had problems when you're gone, things like that. It's a love song, of course. And I was thinking, if that person would cease to ask the question, what'll I do? He would not arouse the necessity for an answer. Therefore, he wouldn't have a problem over the answer. In other words, the asking of the question, what'll I do, arouses the desire to have an answer, but since the answer will be on the question level, on the level of the question, it can only attract an answer on the level of the question. I lost you, my lover. Okay, I lost you. What'll I do? I know. I'll get another lover. Oh, he or she's going to be as bad as the other one, because your nature hasn't changed. Cease to sing, what'll I do? And you watch how the need for a quest for an answer falls away. This means you're going to have to cease to attract answers that flatter the ego. You're going to have to cease to ask for the familiar. You're going to have to cease to ask for something that's going to make you feel comfortable. Remember what I said? Instead of asking, what'll I do? You sit back there, no verbalization, no thinking about it, no impulses, no compulsions, and you sit there and let the terror mount. Which is the beginning of the answer. The real answer, the capital A. You've blocked off the real answer with your answer. I lost my lover, I'll get another one. Ugh, that's no answer. The answer is to find out why you're a slave to that man, to that woman. So instead of screaming and agitating ourselves and going in a circle about life, attracting the nonsense we invited because it started with nonsense, instead of doing that, sometime you do indeed, as a personal experiment, sit back and take a deep breath and don't answer in kind. The world is insane. It howls at you. Of course it does. Human laws howl at you. Wives and husbands howl at you, just as you howl at them, by the way. The government howls at you. Policemen howl at you. Everybody in authority, the teacher howls at you. In the Old Testament it says, let the heathen rage. You just let the sick world be as sick as it wants to be. You are sick and tired of being a part of it, and you no longer have any intention of going along with it. So you're not going to answer when they accuse you, when they shout at you, when they demand of you, when they try to haul you into their petty, worthless little schemes. You're going to begin to live your life, your authentic life. And you're able to do that because you've done long, hard work in seeing what your artificial life actually was. The artificial life of trying to be important, of trying to be rich, of trying to feel secure with material things, of trying to be secure by having this person or that person in your life. All married people are just as insecure as they were when they're single. I will tell you that there's a way to live that is 1,000,000 miles above the level of this world. You can find it if you want it badly enough. If you're willing to explore, just do one thing. This is all that's asked of you and all that's necessary. To explore, to find out, for example, you find out for yourself whether you have been told the truth tonight. I know you have, but you may not want it. Maybe you feel it's too much work. Maybe you don't want to go into it. You feel you're not intelligent enough. Your intelligence can't do it anyway. You can surrender your pseudo-intelligence and God will do the rest. Let's take a short break, then we'll have open discussion.
Sounds like what you're saying, Vernon, is that the instructions are not learning a new pattern or a new mechanical habit system, but just dismissing, getting rid of the whole mechanical structure.
Yes, dying to the false sense of self would be connected with dying to nervousness, would it not? Right.
The center of vibration you talked about, that seems, is that the key to all this sickness we have?
You can even put it that way. It wouldn't be too strong to say that, but you have to see it. You have to see it for yourself. How many of you like to get indignant, you know? How many of you like to get irritable? How many crabs in the audience? Huh? Come on, all the crab. Bob is a crab. Bill's a Louise. Don't you know that crabbiness is a form of this vibration? If it wasn't serving a purpose, you wouldn't do it. But what you don't see is that it's serving a false purpose, to give you this false feeling of life. Look, those of you who are new to this, let me say something before we go any further. Whether you are aware of it or not, what you're hearing tonight will give you a completely new life. Find out for yourself that this is the truth. I know it is. I'm not deceiving me, and I'm not deceiving you. But you have to find out for yourself, and you have to want it. You have to want it more than you want your laziness. You have to want it more than you want your complaints, because your complaints and your crabbiness is keeping you out of the inner kingdom, because you have preferred that to the truth that sets you free from irritation. You can't have both. In order to let loose of irritation, you have to see how it is not rewarding you as you falsely imagine now, but it's destroying you. You actually think that irritation, getting tight and mad, serves a constructive purpose. I know way down deep inside what anybody is thinking when I get mad and hostile and fierce like that. They are protecting death, thinking they're protecting life. And I'll tell you, if you can get through to one person in a million this fact that I just said to you, that's a miracle. And it does happen every once in a while. Someone who will begin to understand that this kind of a hostile, mad, self-righteous, neurotic, insane life is killing you, man. It's killing you, woman. You're defending your own death. You're living in death, not life. You call that life, the way you're living now? Let me tell you, there is something on the other side of it that is real life, in which you'll sit back someday and say, how stupid could I have been? How egotistical could how insane. But you know, when you say that, you are getting sane, you are getting healthy for the first time, because insanity and all its forms are always unconscious of themselves. They have to be. They're in darkness. You are standing apart and seeing your insanity, which is the beginning of sanity. And few ever reach that stage. And the last ones are your highly paid psychiatrists and psychologists. They are driving the world mad with their insanities called mental health. And if you don't think that's the truth, if you were to tell them that, they would hate you. They would, because you're threatening their identity as someone who knows the truth, and you're threatening their $50 an hour fees and their big offices up down on Madison Avenue or Broadway in Los Angeles. And if you hate anyone, you are insane. You're a madman. You're a lunatic. And we're trying here tonight to rescue ourselves from ourselves, which can be done.
As the ego, is what we call the ego, this vibration combined with the wrong thought about ourselves?
Yes, you could say that. Nothing wrong with saying that. Egotism is a mechanical thought which says I. Egotism is a mechanical thought that says I repeatedly, with emotion, with desire, with fanaticism, with hatred, in any way at all. That is, it gives a million varieties. But it is always I. But the I is purely intellectual, mental. And we learn to use our minds properly, And the way to use our minds properly is to not say I, except when you learn to say it consciously, but that's way, way beyond you now. What you can do now is begin to see how you act. Listen, there's no exceptions to anyone in this room or listening to this tape. You watch how you won't believe it. Egotism never believes anything about itself. It doesn't want to. It wants to believe it's universal and noble. Egotism is quite convinced in its unconsciousness that the world does or should revolve around it. Everybody should serve its purposes. It demands it. And if you don't serve its purposes, what does it do? Get mad. It lies about it. Finds excuses for behaving like an animal. And maybe again for those of you who are new to these things, we have a relatively small group here tonight. Why do you suppose it's small? Why do you suppose the nearest bar, the first nearest bar here may have 5 times the people we have here? Why do you suppose that is? It's because what I've been telling you about is true. Most people don't want to look at themselves. They want to pretend. Listen to this. They want to pretend that they're going to live forever. Do you ever think about your own death? You will think correctly about it when you no longer live for this world. That means, among other things, you're no longer living in this world because you think that this world can and should confirm your I, yourself, your false sense of self. The world can't do it. It can pretend to, and the whole world is in a great conspiracy which says this. This is what the world says. You lie to me, and I'll lie to you, and we'll push back the horror of our emptiness. This is why, as you begin to grow a little bit inwardly, you don't want to be around people who lie to you because you're not exchanging lies with them anymore. Your level is rising. We used to exchange on this level down here. If your wife or husband or friend, son, whatever, wants to remain on this level, that's up to them. But if you want to rise, you want to go higher in insight and free yourself of yourself, there's no communication anymore, are they? You understand that you used to be down there, but you don't want to live down there anymore. It's too miserable. You want out. You can get out. Okay, who'd like to talk? Yes, Bill.
You analyze self-pity.
Pardon?
Analyze self-pity.
Analyze self-pity? Well, look at it. Very simple. I feel sorry for me. Now look at how this connects with what we've been talking about all tonight and many other times. I feel sorry for me. Who's the attention on? Who is being, quote mark, confirmed? Me. Let me ask you a question. Who's the self you're feeling sorry for? Tell me. You can't. You'll get baffled if I ask you to tell me who this self is that you're feeling so sorry for. Do you know who it is? It's a mere thought and nothing else. It's an idea you have about yourself. Who are you? Find out. And you do that by finding out who you are not. And you're not a person who has to feel sorry for yourself. Who's there to suffer? You suffer because you think there's someone there to suffer, and you love the suffering because it confirms the you. Suffering goes when there's no you to suffer. When there's no vibration there centered around a mere description, belief you have about yourself. All right? A little exercise. All of you deliberately, this is a deliberate exercise, think of something that happened to you in the past. Make it some time ago, say 5 years or more, okay? Anything tragic, bad that happened to you, anything at all. What was it? A divorce? You were the cause of an auto accident? Anything at all. Think of something bad that happened to you. You got it? To yourself, of course. Okay. Where is this person? Where is he? Where is she? You thought about that incident, and because you're still living in time, still living in identification, it may have caused, to one degree or another, a certain vibration in you. The time will come when your memory will be pure because there's no I connected with it. And indeed, you can think about that very same incident where you got in an auto wreck, which was your fault. You can think about it, but it won't activate inner earthquakes in you anymore because you know that it isn't you and never was, even at the time of the accident, it wasn't you. If you think it was you, you will still be accident prone, by the way, but that isn't the main point. The main point is you think that you have a self that perpetuates itself from 5 years to 4 years to 3 years to 2 years up till now. Someday you'll understand what it means to die instantly to thought, thereby sever all connection with the past, therefore have no time self, no time identity at all. Therefore you'll be free, perfectly free, right now to think clearly when it's necessary to think, but to have no problems at all because your intellect is not being distorted to cause problems, because there's no self there at all. This doesn't mean you're without intelligence. We're without intelligence when we think we have a self. One of the fears you have of letting go of yourself is to think that you'll lose control. What control are you talking about? You don't have control of your life now. You don't. You really don't. You look at those mad thoughts, those mad feelings that race through your mind all day long. That's control. You will have control when there's no you there trying to be the center of your world, therefore not trying to have control at all. Then you'll know what it means for there to be control, but it's a new control in which you are not. This you have to discover for yourself. If you're bashful, this would be a chance for you to go against the bashfulness of the physical body and of the mind and raise your hand, and no matter how stumbling the question is, it's a good question if you're trying to work. You can't hide out anymore. Yes, Bob.
All day long, we're seeking awards, whether it's financial, acceptance, or whatever. Seems like the mind is constantly in a dither of awards. I find that 90% of the awards that the little mind is after are absolutely not necessary.
Right. I often ask this question in connection with that, Bob. Let me try it again. How many of you like to be flattered? Let's see the hands of those of you who like to be flattered. Now analyze it. Really, this is serious business now. Why do you like to be flattered? You know why? It gives you a vibration, doesn't it? Doesn't it? He said that nice thing about my dress. He said, my hair looks so pretty tonight. You swallow it whole. Do you know what hell is, among other things? It's the 5 minutes following flattery. We like to be flattered because it seems to affirm our sense of self-worth. I'm attractive, I'm admirable, I'm nice company to have around. It seems to affirm us. How many of you like to be criticized? All of you, please raise your hand. You can't live without criticism. You invite it. Why? Vibration. Don't you talk that way to me. Right? You would never be insulted unless you wanted to be. Someone insults you, and if there's no self there, how can you feel insult? Only the invented artificial self can feel insulted, and therefore have the need to strike back. And you know what striking back is, revenge is, retribution is? It's the love of the original false vibration and the love to perpetuate it by keeping it going. You insult me, I get mad and I hate you. You said something mean to me. I love that feeling. I don't want to give it up. I feel so important. I'm so important you insulted me. See? Okay, I feel it dying a little bit. 3 seconds has passed. I'm beginning to feel less shaky. I love the vibration. Yeah, but you too used to steal. Ah, I got it back, right? Accusing someone, I got it back. Now I'm getting sad again. But I'll find someone to fight with. The nearest target will do, regardless of how cruel it is, how stupid it is. I'll find someone. No problem. Okay, you're on. The lady, then the gentleman.
How do we get rid of this false self?
How do we get rid of it? By seeing what it's doing to you. And what it's doing to you, and I'm talking to you personally now, whether you're aware of it or not, I am telling you that it's tearing you apart.
I'm aware of it.
Pardon?
I'm aware of it.
Yes, that's good. Keep being more aware of it until you get sick and tired of putting up with the tyranny of it.
The need for this vibration must be the cause of fantasies and daydreams and sex thoughts and all that sort of business too.
Yes, connect it with as many things as you can. You mentioned a new source, daydreams, for example. How about community-wise, or rather international-wise? Can you think of a more violent vibration than World War II? Any war? Always something to do, a great cause to go after, right? I saw a TV show today in which, get this, the chaplain of the football team prayed that God would give them the victory in the football game that day. Now what's going to happen if the chaplain of the other team prays the same thing? Don't you let anything steal what you have gained tonight. Don't you let any dark force inside you or outside you steal it. And as the darkness in you is replaced by light, then the darkness in other people, in your neurotic parents, for example, that darkness won't have a chance. The darkness out there has a chance only as long as it can correspond to the darkness in you. As you become light, God's light, not your light, of course, not my light, truth's light, as this light grows brighter and brighter, the darkness of that sneering brother, that psychopathic whatever, no chance at all. And then they'll want to leave you because you're not feeding them the darkness they need. and the darkness, which they will call light, of course. Because you'll have a great urging. You know, if we were in a physical hell with the flames down there and the devil poking his pitchfork at us, and there was a ladder there, we'd have a pretty high urge to get scrambling up that ladder as fast as we can, wouldn't we? An urging, all right. The urging that we need is, as the lady brought out, the urging that we need is an awareness that we are in hell. If you lie about that, you are sunk. But you know, this can be revealed only degrees at a time, otherwise it'd be too much for you. If I could go around the room personally to you, those of you I know, and tell you what your personal hell is, if it's too much for you, you would resent it and resist it. So hell has to be revealed just a little bit at a time. And this is why it's necessary all day long to watch your petty things. Petty irritation down at the market. You were sure you chose the right line, and it turned out to be the one where you waited 15 minutes and you had just a loaf of bread. Watch how easily you can be upset by the world out there. How you worry about inflation. Let me ask you something. Why are you worried about what's going on inside the insane asylum? What has that to do with you? You tend to your health, and don't you love the vibration of worrying over that sick world? It isn't going to change. It's going to be exactly as it is or get worse. The world is not going to change in spite of all the peace treaties and all the laws and all the pensions. What can change is the kind of a human being you are, the way you think, the way you see things, your relationship with eternity. That can change, and it can start tonight. Or maybe you started a year ago or 2 years ago. Intensify your urge to race up that ladder. And I'll repeat, what will give you the urge to climb higher and higher out of your hell is an awareness of the pain of the flames down in it. But if I tell you what your particular hell is and you get mad, that means you prefer the flame of the hell of your anger over understanding what I'm talking about. When you get mad, if you get hostile over being told the truth, that blocks off your awareness of the hell of your anger or resisting the truth. So you have to sit back and see, you know, why did I flare up internally? You may not have done outwardly because you've got good manners in public maybe. Why did I flare up when I was told that truth? Why can't I be just a little bit honest and see that I got mad? And I'll tell you why you got mad. Because you felt that the world as you now see it and as you now live it is threatened. Please, please, whatever you do, let me threaten your present world. Rather, let truth threaten it. And do more than that. Let truth destroy your present way of thinking. I'm telling you, you can be sitting down in that office with business going bad. You can go to your home where there's a fight with the wife or husband. You can go here or there and be right in the middle of the business world, of the social world, of the domestic world. Be right in the middle of it and not caught up in its insanity because you are sane. Insanity can't be caught up by insanity. The world can rage around you, and it will, but you know better. You're not part of it, not anymore. We were a part of it, weren't we? Weren't we a part of the madness, the grasping, the wanting that extra $10 a week or I'll strike? Or you behave the way I want you to behave, or I'll hate you, or I'll leave you, or I'll do something to hurt you. How many of you have hurt another human being this last month? How many of you would like to have hurt another human being but afraid you would get revenged? Is your hand up, Bill?
Yeah, Vernon, you're telling me that I am afraid of going insane. You are telling me that I have never been manipulated. I have only manipulated myself. Is this true?
Let us say you have submitted yourself in ignorance to the manipulation of the dark forces that are both in you and out of you. You have submitted because you don't understand that you don't have to submit. Your real nature doesn't have to submit, but you're not living from your real nature. You're living from your dark nature, which is all you presently know. What do you think we're here for tonight? To begin to reveal even just that much light, that much of our real nature, which can begin to go to work for us. 0.1% is enough to start with. And if you're interested in changing yourself, hallelujah. That's the 0.1% you need. That part is truth, that part is light, that part is God. And it will increase, it will grow as you begin to understand, first on the intellectual level, and then rise above the intellect. I can't read that. What does that say?
It's 20 out.
20 out. We'll take 10 more minutes. Yes, Louise.
In this manipulation, when you're living with someone, a husband, wife, and you've lived with that wife for some 55, 60 years, and she endeavors constantly to manipulate you, and you're aware of it, where do you go from there to cease being harassed?
If you are being manipulated by anyone, you are asking for it. Your manner is asking for it. Your level of understanding is asking for it. Your weakness is asking for it. Your wish to get something from them is asking for it. Let me tell you something. When your mind is free, nobody will manipulate you. They'll look at your... Look. They'll even look at your face and know they don't have a chance. Find out where you're wanting something from the person who's manipulating you, among other things.
Vernon, you said when you're free. What do you do in the meantime when you're trying to get to that freedom state?
I'll tell you what, Louise. You come to every class. You read the books. You listen to truth instead of your nonsensical friends and your nonsensical parts inside. You work hard, and you don't ever fall into the trap of getting in despair as to how long it's going to take you. Don't you know that if you could understand all these things at once that we're talking about tonight, you could walk out of that door with a free mind? We can't do it because we've fallen so deeply into the ditch. It does take time. We know it takes time. But you can go fast or you can go slow. Which do you want? Or some of you are going to go backward. You're going to go backward if you've been sitting here tonight defensively. I'll guarantee you that. I'll guarantee you that if you're protecting yourself against the truth that you've heard tonight, and it's not my truth, it's God's truth. If you're protecting yourself against that, I'll guarantee you that you will get harder and harder as you grow older and older, and you will get scareder and scareder, and in your desperation you will seek more vibrations, whatever they might be, and they won't work for you. Why don't we have 1 ounce of sense here tonight to begin to see that the truth isn't out to hurt us, which we imagine. It's not out to take anything away from us but that which is painful and false. You have a goal. You want to achieve something in this world. You want to become the world's greatest violinist. You want your paintings to hang in the Louvre, or whatever it's called. So they hang there, and you get the vibration of being applauded for being the world's greatest violinist. What happens when the curtain comes down and the vibration goes away? You're going to get depressed. I'm telling you, there's a way to live where there are real rewards, as Bob brought out, where there are real rewards. Listen to this, please. Listen to what I'm going to say. You've heard it before. What shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? What shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Yes, Sarah.
So Vernon, our work, our inner work then, is to see what causes these vibrations and refuse to go along with it.
Yes.
Time if we can.
Yes, and awareness of them is the refusal. You understand? You, Sarah, can't refuse them. Sarah is them. But pointing the light of observation at first on them is the beginning of the light that puts an end to the vibration. And look and see how fond you are of them, how much you treasure them. Was your hand up, Leland?
Yeah. From what you're saying, the thought simply comes that the world must have been created for our delight. That is, it must have been conceived originally as something that we might enjoy as we go through it. And as a result of all of our efforts to protect, we have simply made a mess of everything and prevented any possible appreciation of what life really is or of the blessing that has been given us.
Yes, and you're connected with that, if I may comment on that. Your everyday life becomes much more pleasurable, much more enjoyable. And I mean those words just as you think we mean them. Your everyday life, whatever you do all day long, much more pleasurable, much more relaxed, much more fun. Why? Because there's no self there that's always tensely on guard. Who's going to hurt me next? How can I get something in order to feel fulfilled? All that is gone. All that nervous anxiety to protect or promote yourself is gone. Because the self that used to do that has been awared out of existence.
Vernon, if when you become aware of the thoughts and you try to, or so to speak, shine light on them, and they don't go away, then that's really not work, is it?
Well, now look, you have to start with that. And let me tell you something. It will take you a long, long, long time, hundreds of thousands of repeated efforts to let the light shine on the darkness of an angry thought, for example, before it will go away. Because you're not sure of what you're quite supposed to do at the start. You're not sure what it's all about. But I'll guarantee you the time will come when you become an expert. And look, you're walking down the street, doing nothing in particular, right? Okay, you're walking down the street, and all of a sudden, an exterior attraction makes you negative, whatever it might be. You see someone who reminds you of someone that you don't like very well. You catch the negative, oh, there goes old Mac, I don't like him, I never did like him, he remind you of him. You caught that thought starting to take you over again, and instantly your awareness that it's going through cuts it off, because awareness and thought can't occupy the mind at the same time. They alternate. Remember we said that we must alternate between practical thought and awareness. The awareness will cut off that negative thought. Then you might go into practical thought. I think I'll go in the drugstore, I need some toothpaste. That's a practical thought. But hating Mac burns you. When you hate Mac, you burn you. We're pretty self-destructive, aren't we? All that can change. Suppressing? Of course you can. This is what the world does. It suppresses it and calls it something else. Oh, I used to hate Mac, but I've become a Christian. Now I love everybody, including Mac. You still hate Mac. You're suppressing it because you want to be the loving Christian who now loves Mac. You see, you want to be the lover. As long as you are the lover, you're the hater. When you cease to exist as the lover, there is love, but it's not you. Which does not mean you're stupid toward Mac. Mac might indeed be a very vicious person, and you'd be very smart if you avoid him. But that's a side issue. Any final comments or questions that you have? Go ahead, Louise.
Bill was just discussing, Vernon. He's thinking the same thing I am, and I don't think you answered the question.
Try again.
When you're thinking, when the thought comes through to you, you see that fellow, that's Mac, I used to hate him. You're not supposed to do that. You let awareness come in, right?
Correct.
Then what do you do? I mean, you all of a sudden don't love Mac, and what do you do? You just try
You don't have to do anything. You've got rid of the negativity. What else do you want?
You don't want anything else.
No.
Okay.
And I want to explain to you why you have a confused mind. I already have, but I'll add to it. First of all, you have a confused mind, as I said a minute ago, because you won't explore beyond it. You want to stay in your own smug, little, pleasant unhappiness. I said your pleasant unhappiness. Because at this point of your confusion, you take your irritations, and you take your displeasures, and you take your tensions, and you take your hopes as a very, very peculiar form of pleasure. You think that it's actually fun to be irritable. And the reason you call it fun is because you don't know anything else to do. Like a machine, someone pokes the button that we have in us, and bang, we go into that mechanical automatic reaction. And this is our life up to this point. If you're able to take a good deal of jolting, a good deal of what you call insults to your marvelous nature, if you're able to take the simple plain fact that you don't know anything at all, even your religious studies up to this point, even your philosophies up to this point, you sit down and you make a bunch of little notes, and you go home and you read books and you read tapes and you come to meetings like this constantly. How come nothing changes? How come some of you come to these meetings and I see the same person coming to this meeting tonight that came to the meeting 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Don't think just because you've been in this for a long time that you've changed your nature. You don't have any idea of what it means to change your nature, because there's been no change. You prefer to stay asleep. I'm trying a little bit tonight. I'm being very gentle with you tonight. I'm trying tonight to give you your first initial jolt so that you can make up your mind as to whether you want to continue to take the jolts in order to jolt yourself completely out of the old mechanical, conditioned, acquired ways, and thank heaven, begin to find the way that exists that is outside of your suppressed neurosis, of your hidden unhappiness. Shall I make it stronger? Let's make it stronger. Of your suppressed hatred, of your suppressed violence, of your repressed bitterness toward the state you are presently in. Look, let me tell you something. We're all in the same boat. We are born into this lunatic world, and we went, lunatic parents and lunatic friends and lunatic religious people. We were surrounded by lunatics, and we absorbed what they gave us and became a lunatic ourselves. You have a chance tonight to cease to be sane, to cease to be a lunatic and begin to be sane. Now listen very, very carefully to what I'm going to say next. Because this, if you understand and stick with it, try to understand it, make connections, try to see the depths of the very, very simple facts I'm going to give you, you can begin to escape from who you presently are, which is your hell. The mind by which you live your ordinary life of going to work, of preparing dinner, of figuring things out in the garden. Let's change the tree, put it over there, over there. This ordinary mind cannot understand higher truth. It cannot comprehend the things that I'm telling you tonight. Because truth, cosmic consciousness, God, a free mind, a truly happy mind, a noble mind, does not consist of ordinary thinking. The mind that says, I would better add more salt to the soup to make it taste better, the mind that says that cannot understand the need for transcending itself. It can't understand what eternity is all about. Now follow carefully, and I'm going to go slowly so you don't miss it. So you don't make the mistake of trying to use your ordinary mind to understand extraordinary things. It can't be done. Listen to this. This is the very heart of what I'm going to tell you tonight. We can begin to be very, very honest about our actual condition. I've described it. Now, can you be honest enough to admit that your life is indeed one of suppressed hatred? Or when I say that, are you going to get mad because you have some idiotic picture of yourself of being loving? Heaven help any of you who have a self-image of being a good person, of being a loving person, of being a dear Christian, of being a child of God. Heaven help any of you who are living from a mere image of the kind of an ideal person that you think you are. Because if you're living from this, you will be very unloving when I tell you that you're a desert fox, you know nothing of spiritual truth, you know nothing of... Listen to this, and watch your reaction to what I'm going to tell you now. Listen to this. In your present state of living in the desert, you don't have an ounce of decency in your whole system. What you do have are desires. What you do have are vanities. What you do have is pictures about yourself in which you flatter yourself, in which you say, I am not at all that dreadful person you describe. You had better take a very, very close look at yourself and see how you are pretending your life, how you're living a life of pretense. Do you know that if you could do that, if you could begin to understand that you're presently living in the desert, the urge to escape it, the urge to get out of there, the urge to drink the water up on the mountain, the urge to do that could then enter you, which would be the beginning of your first step up the mountain, where eventually you would see your first little patch of green grass, your first little glimpse of the water, the stream. It's a long ways off because it's up that mountain and you can't even figure it out. But because you've said to yourself, I'm tired of being confused and I'm tired of trying to explain things on my own level. I'm tired of looking at the mirage out in the desert and saying, Sir, mountain fox, you're telling me about the beautiful river up there. Look, you're not telling me anything I don't already know. Look at that river out there on the desert. And the mountain fox says, please, don't you understand that's a mirage? I'll tell you what. You're thirsty, aren't you? The desert fox says, yes, I'm thirsty. The mountain fox says, I'll tell you what to do. You go over and drink from what you call a river, and you tell me whether that satisfies your thirst or not. Please, do it. If any of you here in this room or listening to this tape want the real water of eternal life, something that will last you beyond the possession of your physical body, I urge you, I encourage you to do something very shocking and very revealing, the one thing that will save you. I dare you, I challenge you to go over toward what you call that stream, that refreshment, and you try to slake, try to satisfy your thirst by drinking from it. If you will do that, now listen to this, it's very important. If you will do that, if you will have the courage to see that you've lived in illusion all your life, that you've lied to yourself, the one way you can prove that you've lied to yourself is to go over there and be shocked by trying to drink from that illusory stream and see that you're still thirsty. And say, I am sick and tired of lying about it. What I've called my religion that satisfies, what I've called my exciting life, what I've called my pursuit of ambition, what I've called my daydreams, they don't satisfy it at all. And thank God I've had an ounce of sense to see it for the first time. Here I am, 30 years old, 40 years old, 60 years old, 80 years old. And for the first time, I've had an ounce of sense to challenge my assumptions, to challenge my beliefs, to challenge my delusions. When you walk over to that stream that you have called your source of happiness and face the horror of how you have lived, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something beautiful, marvelous. When you fall on your face in that dry riverbed, seeing, because you've had the honesty, seeing that there is no water there, and you fall on your face and your hair is sandy and your face is stuck from your own tears with the sand. When you fall on your face utterly defeated, no longer telling lies, God will hear you and come to your rescue. Do you think many human beings are going to do this? Real honest now. Do you think many human beings want to even listen when they're told about what's on that mountain? Do you think they're going to pay any attention? They're paying attention to their liquor bottle. They're paying attention to their favorite TV show. They're paying attention to the baseball game. They're paying attention to their sex life. They're paying attention to remodeling the bedroom. They're paying attention to their sickness. You have a chance here tonight. You, this lady, this gentleman, this lady. You have a chance to begin to become unconfused. There's only confusion on the desert. There's no confusion on the mountaintop. You have to start somewhere to begin to understand that the intellect which lies about what it is and where it's going, the intellect must eventually come to an end of itself, and that happens when you fall flat on your face, seeing with horror the way you have lived up to this point of your life. Falling flat on your face, not knowing what's going to happen to you, thinking you're going to die out in that desert, when you have completely collapsed and have nowhere to go, no more lies to listen to. When you have run out of lies, God Almighty has a chance, and He will take that opportunity. He won't fail you to speak to you when you're flat on your face, thinking you're going to die. Listen to me. When you are willing to die, when you are willing to die, at that split second, God will give you eternal life. This is not just a talk. This is not just religious philosophy. I am telling you that if you will go this far, you will prove for yourself that you've been told the pure truth tonight, which is not my truth. What you've been told is the truth of the mountaintop, the truth which you can know for yourself. Please, please, do have the courage to start walking toward that mirage so you can see it as a mirage, as long as you still believe in it, as long as you still believe in superficial religious doctrines or phony philosophies, or as long as you believe in a human being, as long as you believe in a study course or a book, as long as you believe in that, you'll remain confused and you'll be sick and you'll be miserable and you will be scared as you are now sitting in front of me. You will be scared as you are now. There's a way to cease to be scared, which is to get rid of your confused mind by ceasing to love the agitation that it gives you. Start walking toward the illusion of the river over there. Have the courage to face the fact that you've lived in lies and delusion up to this point. And that's not bad, that's good. That's good for you, it's not bad. And you're all sitting here listening intently to what I'm saying, and most of you, I know, will go right out of here and continue to call that mirage a river. Few of you who are fed up enough, who are tired of having sand in the mouth, you want real water. A few of you may follow unto the end, and he that endureth unto the end shall be saved. Don't you dare waste one more minute of your life. You're put here on earth. You're put here on earth with the possibility of finding eternity. It can be done, but not if you want time glory, time honors more than that. What shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul?
Could you please explain in more detail your concept of the mirage that we're all headed towards?
Yes. The mirage exists on the level of this ordinary mind that I explained to you. The ordinary mind that you use when you dress yourself, when you conduct your business, or whatever. If we used our intellect properly, then it would be used properly on the everyday level of repairing the clothes or repairing the car or making dinner or whatever, for practical purpose of life. If you're walking down a country road and there's a rock in it, thought says go around the rock or you'll stub your toe against the rock. You're using your mind for practical purposes in ordinary life. However, this mind, ordinary mind, makes the one mistake that makes our confusion as dreadful as it is. This ordinary mind is under the delusion, under the mirage, that it consists of a separate self. That is, we think in our delusions that our name is real. Mary Jones, Tom Smith. We think that the label general, president of the company, marvelous parent, the person who's a success, we take all these labels as being real, as being you. This means you identify with events, negative ones included. Just to call yourself a bum is equally vain and equal vanity too, because you've given yourself a label, an identity, and you may even brag about what a big bum you are. So all labels will keep us in delusion. You will only see this when you begin to die to your self-descriptions, which is a horribly difficult task, because you're afraid that if you give up the pictures, the imaginations you have about yourself, you won't know who you are, and that is indeed a fact. But you don't understand, when you no longer know who you are, you know who you are. But it's no longer thought saying, I am a success or a failure. You're above these opposites, which the intellect operates in, where there's simply a very quiet consciousness, that you are here in the physical flesh, and that you belong to eternity. But when you say the word you, it's not connected with memory. That is, you don't say the you I'm talking about is not this person who's so marvelous because he went to church for 20 years without missing a service, or this marvelously kind person who always gives money to charity, and the reason you give is because you're afraid not to give, you're afraid they might hate you or something. But you get a self-picture out of being a generous person. When all your images have gone, then all your delusions are gone. And again, you won't, close that door please, then you won't understand presently what I'm talking about, because you're still receiving it on the level of the intellect that wants to keep you in place. All right. I'm trying to get you tonight to come to the point where you see the dryness of your religious life, of your social life, of this life, of that life. See the dryness of it, so that you can then connect it with what you've heard tonight, that it's necessary for you to come to an end of intellectual concepts, except for practical living. Baking a cake, you have to have an intellect for that, or you'll burn the cake. But you must come to the point where you no longer say I. I am this, I am that. I've been persecuted. You have no idea how persecuted I've been. Or I've been successful. You don't know what a wonderful life. I started with $5 and I started that business. Now I'm a millionaire and everybody admires me. Do you want to continue to live in the sick egotism of this world? Do you want to continue to pay the price for it? You can if you want. If you don't want to, have the courage to see your illusions as illusions which will begin to put an end to them.